Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, we were looking at objectives of product design, and we had discussed about 5 points. So the first one was profit generation. So that is a basic objective of a product design. We have to have a profit generation. Then came to satisfy customer requirements. That was the second point, to satisfy customer requirements. Then third one, to achieve desired product quality. That is the third point. Fourth one was to the perform its desired function with desired accuracy, reliability, and strength. That was the fourth point. Then fifth point was to be used with minimum possible fatigue. So it must not provide any type of stress when being used. It must have a simple design. So that is in the fifth point. And next point is the design should product to be used with minimum noise, vibration, and other hazards. So any product that is that we are using, if there is some kind of noise or it is vibrating apart from our function, then we will obviously feel some kind of irritation. Okay, and that is undesirable. And for that purpose, the design should the design should eliminate such noise, vibration, or hazards, or even if it is present, it must be kept at a minimum. So some kind of rotating components like fans and all, there will be sufficient noise, right? And that noise must be minimum, so it must not pose an irritation to the person using it or the personals using it. And such a design should be given to the product, and that is also another objective of product design. Okay, that is the sixth point. So it must be used with the minimum noise, vibration, and other hazards. So the first one was profit generation. Second one was to satisfy customer requirement. Third one was to achieve desired product quality. Fourth one was to perform its desired function with desired accuracy, reliability, and strength. Then fifth one was to be easily used with the minimum possible fatigue. And the sixth one is to be used with the minimum noise, vibration, and other hazards. Okay, now few more points are there. Next one is to ensure productivity or manufacturability. So we are designing a process that is suitable for the product design, and that is also a simplified uh, process. The process should be simplified so that you can easily produce it or easily manufacturing it. That is what is coming here as ensure productivity or manufacturability. So it must be present in the market for some period of time, and that is called the product life cycle, which we'll discuss. And due to that larger period of product life cycle, we are ensuring that we can produce more of that product, or we can manufacture more of that product. That is how we ensure the productivity, okay, or manufacturability. That is the seventh point. So we are ensuring productivity or ensuring that the product will be stable or will be present in the market for a longer period of time. So that is coming under to ensure productivity or manufacturability. Then eighth point, to allow standardization in all the components. So multiple components, maybe a single product can be produced, or a product which consists of various components can also be produced. And for that, components, we have already discussed about how we can make these components, either by making the components in the company itself or from other companies. You are buying it from other companies, which we have termed it as subcontracting. Okay. Anyway, what all the components we are getting, we are assembling it into a product. Okay. So for all that components, there is some type of standardization provided. So if you are not providing a standardization, for example, if you guys have been using rulers, right? Rulers or scales you are using. Each scale that we are using has a standardized unit, that is centimeter, millimeter, meter, etc. Standardized units are given, and all the units are present. All the units used are standardized all over the world. So if a person is taking a measurement of 1 millimeter, 1 centimeter at one place, in the same way, that will be similar in our country also. Okay. So that is what is known as standardization. So if you are standardizing a component, same component with the same specification will be obtained. And when we are manufacturing a product, we are producing a product that is in same specification or same dimension or in the same shape. Okay. And for that product to have such a shape, if you are using multiple components, the component should also be standardized, so that if there is any type of repair or any type of defective things occurring inside that product, you can replace the component with the exact component that we can obtain. That is the effect of standardization of components. So that is also another objective of product design. You have to standardize all the components. So that is what is coming under the objective of product design. Next one, to have minimum number of components. So first one was standardize the components. Next was to have minimum number of components. So if you are there may be many components, right? Depending upon the product that is being manufactured. So the components used in a machine will be lesser when compared to the components used in a car. Obviously, car must have more number of components to function properly. But in a small machine, it only requires a smaller components. Okay, the number of components will be less. So depending upon the product, there will be sufficient components, but we are always making that components with the least number of components that can be held in the product. So if you are taking a car, you are having so many components, and we are equipping all these components in a simplified manner. That is, you must have the least number of components for that car to work or to provide that particular function. So if you are taking any product or any device, it must have minimum number of components so that it will not complicate things. So if you want to service such a product, or if you have to do some maintenance work on that product, it must have a simplified design or a simplified number of components so that you can easily maintain that or easily service it or easily replace it. Okay. For that purpose, it must have minimum number of components. So if a car is breakdown, we will be looking at the troubleshoot, or we will be troubleshooting the vehicle for any type of issues. And when we are looking at that particular issue, if it is a faulty component that is present inside the vehicle, you are replacing that component or you are repairing that component. This is because you can disassemble the component much more easily, right? That is because of the minimum number of components present in the vehicle. So in a vehicle of any class, maybe of any company itself, there are primary components that are always present in the terms of an engine or in the terms of differential, brakes, etc. Okay, these are all common components that it will be present in that vehicle, and you can ensure the replacement or maintenance of such components in the vehicle itself. Okay, that is because they are standardized all over the world, and also the vehicle is fitted with the most minimum number of components to serve various functions. So it will differ. For a conventional car, it was basically for running. or for transportation itself. But in modern cars, they are having additional facilities like Bluetooth facilities, media players, etc. Okay, so there are more components there, but the different functions are being satisfied there, and for that function the minimum number of components are kept, or it is simplified to such a manner. So that is what is meant by to have minimum number of components. Next, the design should provide repair and replacement at low cost. So one of the advantages when having minimum components is easier replacement or easier maintenance. And also, if you are doing such a maintenance or repair, it must be provided at a low cost, and that is why we are standardizing all the components. So if there are a standardized number of components, we can replace that component with ease. And also, if you have multiple number of same components there, due to the huge productivity or manufacturability, there will be multiple components present, or the demand for that component will be less. Hence, the price will also be less, and that is ensured here. So the objective here is to obtain the component, simplified component or the standardized component at low cost. So these are the objectives. So the first one was profit generation. Second one was satisfy customer requirement. Third one was achieve desired productivity, sorry, product quality. Then fourth one was perform its desired function with desired accuracy, reliability, and strength. Fifth one was to be easily used with minimum possible fatigue. The sixth one was to be used with minimum noise, vibration, and other hazards. Seventh one was to ensure productivity and manufacturability. Eighth one was to allow standardization in all components. Ninth one, minimum number of components. And tenth, low cost in repair and replacement. So these are the objectives coming under product design. Okay. Next topic, also on product development process. So this is another important question that can be asked. So we have already termed what is a product. So it is written here. If you don't know, look at this. Product means any marketable thing with some utility in it, produced either by a labor or through series of automated process. So it can be used as a labor method or a hand labor method, or even with the assistance of machine, or by means of robotic or automated processes. By any ways, the thing that is produced which has some marketable value, such a thing is known as product. Okay, it can be produced by a labor or automated processes, and there are some development processes or product design processes that are dealt here. So both the question, if it comes for product design or product development, the same answer has to be written. And under product development, there are 5 types of development process. Okay, the first one is conception or idea generation. So that is the first one. So how is this idea based on? So already before we have discussed about how the objectives for the product or how the product has to be manufactured is mentioned. So it is based on the customer demand, right? The customer feedback is being taken, and they will be giving out, or they will be mentioning some functions required for that product, and that will be the basis for the objectives formed during the design time or designing process of the product. So based on that objectives, we are generating an idea, and that is known as conception. Okay, it is the most important step of design activity, and it forms the basis for all the subsequent actions that has to be taken place. And during this stage, the needs of the target market are identified. So that is the first thing. We are identifying the needs or the functions that is needed. Then the competitive products are reviewed. uh, Competitive products in the sense maybe that product will be produced by a competitive or the competition industry. Okay, and if such products are present, we are reviewing such products also, so that you can improve the design, that is improve or make a design that is much better than the competitive products. And for that purpose you have to review the competitive products. So our objective is always to get the customer demand so as to get more productivity. Okay, and for that purpose we have to be better than the competitive products present in the market. And for that we are reviewing the competitive products that is present in the market. Then we are drafting the product specification. So based on the needs and the competitive products present in the market, we are drafting a product specification. What all dimensions, how many products are there, how many components is present inside. So such and all, it is being reviewed and drafted. And then methods for production is generated, or a production, how, what all processes of production, what are the raw materials required, etc., are then visualized, and it is generated as an idea, and then moved on to the next phase. And what is the next phase? It is the acceptance phase. Okay, under acceptance phase, or at this stage, the new product viability is investigated and draft specification are evaluated. So under conception, we are developing the product based on the specification we have stated earlier and on the competitive needs of the market. And after that, we are checking the new product for the draft specification. So if it is keeping that draft specification, or it is doing that work or the function for which it is being created, and if it can hold that particular function for a reliable period of time, so it does not fail under any type of stress for the longer period of time. So that is all the requirements of customer, right? They require a product with a high quality, minimum cost, which is having reliable strength. That is, it must be present for a longer period of time. If it fails immediately or after a short period of time, they obviously will not choose that product. They will go for another product from the competitive market. So we will be losing that customer. So that is unacceptable. And for that purpose, we are checking the device, the product that is being developed after the drafting of that idea and investigated for the draft specification. And it has to satisfy customer requirements, manufacturing requirements, etc. Okay, the customer requirement is the basic function there, and then manufacturing requirements. So what are the manufacturing requirements? Manufacturing requirements in the sense you must have the device, etc., for providing it. Then the raw materials must be available at the lower cost, or it must be available near to the nearby. It must be available nearby. And that is how the industry is being built. So it is built at a point where you can easily obtain raw materials, or even obtain it at the low cost. So only then you can generate more profit. So that is the main aim there, and that is coming under manufacturing requirements. Then after, if it is satisfying that draft specification, or if you check the new product for the draft specification, then it is accepted, rejected, or modified. Okay, uh, either of the three processes can take place. If it is not satisfying, we are rejecting it, and you are giving it for a modification. Okay, if it cannot, even after a sufficient modification you can't fix the problem, then it is totally rejected. Okay, if it is performing the particular requirements that is mentioned earlier, then it is further acceptable, or it is accepted. Okay, and then we will send it to the next stage. And what is the next stage? That is execution. So under execution, we are creating a working model, and that is the prototype there. Okay, so we are creating a prototype, and we have already studied about what is a prototype and what all, why is a prototype formed, and what are the tests run in a prototype. These all are coming, and I will talk to you about that later. And in a working model, we have already accepted the specification earlier we have mentioned. Okay, and we are creating a prototype, and this prototype is in need for a testing, right? So we are creating that prototype in the same model of the design that we have already stated, and we are developing the product on basis of the procedures that are specified. We are not standardized, we haven't standardized the specification, or haven't standardized the procedure on which the prototype is being created, because we have to first test it, and then only you can, if the prototype is satisfying the earlier mentioned objectives, then only we can sanction the production of the product. And for that purpose, we have to create some prototypes and then send it to the testing field. Okay, and under execution, uh, we are testing the model to evaluate the performance of the product developed. So to evaluate the performance, we have studied in the fourth module about key performance indicators, and uh, the key performance indicators are used to analyze the level of performance that is taking place, maybe the procedure that is carried out, or the functions that is done by the, how well the functions are being done by the product that is developed, etc. These are all coming under the execution phase. So we are creating a working model, that is a prototype, and also we are testing the model to evaluate the performance of the product developed. And after this stage comes translation. Okay, and under translation, you can see here all the relevant information such as material specification, drawings, manufacturing data, and tooling requirements are finalized, and the final product design is made and approved for actual manufacturing process. So we will be obtaining some data from the working model or the prototype testing, and after that all the performance details, from the designing phase to that testing phase is collected. Okay, we are collecting all the data from the idea generation, then the product designs, various designs it is formulated, then various test that is carried out, and the results of such test, and based on that we are creating a performance evaluator, and from that performance we can obtain the reliability, the strength, the manufacturability of that product. And these are all collected in the translation stage. And after that, it is finalized. And the final product design is approved for actual manufacturing process. That comes under translation stage. And the final one, it is coming under pre-production. So under pre-production, the main objective is the stage is to summarize all the details of manufacturing process, and particularly in the case of large-scale production requirements, to carry out pilot test conducted under real production conditions. So under pre-production, this is what is known as the phase under which we are creating a beta version of the product. So we are pre-producing it, and pre-produce the sufficient amounts, maybe 1,000 number of units of that product, or 10,000 units of that product, and we are distributing it to a customer, or the customer that have given us the requirement. And these customers evaluate the product for the said requirements or the said functions for the period of time that is specified by the industry or company. And on basis of that review, or on basis of the feedback received from the customer, further modification etc. can be done from idea or conception generation itself. Okay, so that cycle is being run again. So again, the objective is stated by the customer on basis of the feedback from the prototype product given under pre-production stage. And if it is not up to that level, or if the customer demands additional functions, then again idea generation occurs. Then we have to go to the acceptance stage. From that acceptance, execution, translation, and then again a pre-production stage to ensure that the customer is satisfied with the product that is being produced. And after these 10,000 units or this 1,000 units produced gets approval from the customer or from the uh, people, then it is going into the production stage. So basically there are only 5 stages here, and these are the product development processes that are involved here. So the first one was idea generation, wherein we will generate an idea on basis of the requirements stated by the customer, and we will from that idea generation we will be creating a product, sorry, a product design, and that comes under the conception or idea generation. Then under acceptance stage, we are looking if the product design satisfies all the conditions or the requirements that is stated under the conception stage. And after, if the specification that is drafted is satisfied, then we will be accepting it, or it will be rejected and modified. And if it cannot satisfy in any way, it is completely rejected. So that comes under acceptance stage. After acceptance comes an execution stage, under which a prototype is created on basis of the requirement and specification drafted, and that prototype is tested for various conditions and various testing conditions, and on basis of that conditions, a performance evaluation is created to check whether the uh, whether the to determine the level of performance, that is level of performance shown by the product during that execution stage. Then comes the translation stage, where we are collecting all the data from idea generation to the testing phase, and on basis of that data received, we are approving it for the actual manufacturing process. So that comes under translation. And the final one, pre-production, where we are be producing the product uh, on basis of that manufacturing draft, and then that sufficient number of products is sent to the customer, who then gives a feedback. If it's a positive feedback, then you can obviously carry on with the production cycle, or then you otherwise you have to start with again idea generation, acceptance, execution, translation, and finally pre-production. So these are the product development process that are involved. So don't confuse it with the product life cycle. So these both are different: product development process and product life cycle. Okay. So earlier I have mentioned about the prototypes and all the prototypes that are being built. So you can just look at this. This is not that important. Uh, just for an information purpose, you can study it. So next one is production planning. So under production itself, multiple questions are being asked, and you can see the majority question in that model question paper is also based on the production field, product design, etc. And here production planning is also important. And one of the questions that can be asked are the objectives of production planning. Okay, so what are the basic objectives of production planning? So you can see, first one is to determine the capacity of all the manufacturing departments and to plan systemically the production related activities within the scope of the enterprise to meet the sales requirement. So we have to, after the pre-production cycle, we are going into the production field, right? So we are producing a product and we are mass producing it. So you must actually, the objective here is that you determine the capacity of all manufacturing departments. So various departments are there. I have already mentioned it before. Maybe a designing department may be there, and from that designing there may be a testing department. After that it will be going into the production department. So various departments may be there, and all that departments must be engaged in the production cycle, and it must meet the sales requirement. So the sales requirement is based on the demand that is coming into the coming from the market. So the requirement of products may be on the daily basis or a monthly basis or a yearly basis itself. It's all coming as a sales requirement, and on basis of that sales requirement we can determine the level or the amount of products that has to be produced, or the level of productivity can be determined. And that is one objective of production planning. So we are planning ahead how much products we have to produce, and that is produced on basis of a forecast or the demand that is obtained. So a basic demand of 100 units that is required by the market each day, then you have to produce 100 units in before, or it must be stocked in the inventory a day before, so that there will be no delay during the transition of product from the industry to the market. So it will take some time for transportation, right? So obviously the product of 100 units may be exhausted in the market on that day itself, and that product has to be replaced, or that has to be sent from the industry to the market as soon as possible. So that 100 units must be already present in the industry, and for that purpose the industry will be stocking out that products, or depending upon that demand of 100 units they will be storing that 100 units in the inventory itself, so that they can satisfy the demand that is arising from the company, sorry, from the market. And following that they will be also producing another 100 units to stock up the inventory once the inventory is emptied out from that 100 units. So this is one of the objective of production planning. So you have to plan that all the departments must be working for achieving the productivity or the sales demand. So that is the first objective. Next one is to translate orders received from the sales department into orders on the work department, and to ensure steady plans of production activities. So we are obtaining sales requirements, and then from on basis of that sales requirement we are translating the orders, or we are increasing or decreasing the amount of work that is handled by each of the departments. So during a production cycle itself there is a many number of operations carried out, or many departments carry out various operations in the production field of that particular product. Okay, and that is based on the sales demand. If the sales demand is basically high, obviously the work departments has to perform a more significantly higher amount of production processes to ensure a higher productivity. Okay, but if the sales demand is lower, you don't have to achieve such a production job, or you don't have to increase the level of production cycle, and so you can leisurely, or you can build that product at a particular set of time. So because the sales demand is lower, so that is also one of the objective of production planning. So depending upon the sales demand we are producing the product, or we are uh, planning how the work in the departments has to be distributed. Okay, so that is another part of production planning. So the first one was to determine all the activities that has to be carried out basis on the sales requirement. Second was on basis of that sales requirement, ensure how the work is distributed inside the work departments. Then the third one, to find ways and means through which product manufacturing requirements such as materials and their necessary constituents may be available in the right quantity and quantity at the right time. So it is a basis of the first one itself. So depending upon the sales requirements, we are relating all the activities there, and instead of that, on basis of the sales demand itself, we are ensuring that the quantity or the quality of the product will meet that sales demand. Exactly. So that is what I have earlier mentioned about that 100 units. So if the 100 unit demand is present, the inventory must be stocked up with 100 units, and also another 100 units has to be produced to be filled or replenish the stock once the inventory empties out. Okay. So that is the objective there. So to ensure that, the third objective is here, it is said that the uh, product or the necessary constituents should be available in right quality and quantity at the right time. So that is the third objective. And fourth one is to coordinate several different department groups so that a fine balance of activities may be maintained. So the first one, depending on the sales, we are determining the activities that is needed, and in the fourth point, we are coordinating that activities to all the departments, and how uh, which department must handle which job or which activity, and how they can collaborate, or how they can uh, involve that processes without any delays. So we have already stated the delays are a type of waste that is occurring in the industry, and that must not be present. And for that purpose, we are already planning it ahead so that such a thing does not occur. That is what is mentioned in the fourth point. Okay, I will wind up the class today.